Welcome to the Saturday Cadence podcast. I'm Blake Biscardi, and remember, the Saturday Cadence podcast is the heartbeat of college football. Hey, everybody. Welcome into the program. We've got a great episode for you today. This is a highly anticipated one that you've all been waiting for. It is conference championship game predictions and my college football playoff bracket. That is going to be revealed today on this show right now. Won't tell you what hour of the night this is being recorded because you would think some things, but we love college football. Grind does not stop, and this is what we are here for at Saturday Cadence and the Silver Bulletin. My name is Blake Biscardi, and I am your host, so let's hop right into it. We're going to waste no time here, and I'm going to go here in conference order of importance of game. All right, so I'm going to say the Big Ten first. That's going to be Ohio State versus Penn State. Now, I think these two teams are, we know, going to play November 1st. I have a sneaky suspicion that they're going to split. Now, I said this on yesterday's episode. I'm going to have to see it to believe it when it comes to Penn State. I do think that they can split, and the likelihood is more probable than not that that happens just when it comes to these caliber of football teams. But I think Ohio State right now has the edge at home in Columbus, and I think they are going to win that game as well in Indianapolis. Now, I do think that Penn State is going to beat Oregon and that Ohio State is going to beat Texas. So this could set up as a 1-2 game in Columbus on November 1st. I mean, this could be one of the biggest regular season games of all time. And then you're going to set this up for a rematch about 5 weeks later. The storylines surrounding this game are going to be incredible. Can James Franklin get over the hump against Ohio State? Now, the mile marker team for the Nittany Lions, it's not going to be Oregon. It's not going to be Washington or Iowa or anything like that. It is going to be, can Penn State beat Ohio State? Or can they beat Michigan when they're good on this run? Those two Big Ten big dogs, can Penn State beat them? That's the mile marker for Penn State to say, okay, is this season successful? All right. So I think Julian's saying, now we know he is the starting quarterback for Ohio State. Ryan Day named him in his press conference, so he will get the keys to the kingdom here. He's got a Ferrari. He just has to operate it. He doesn't have to do anything special. He has to play within himself. Ryan Day said the team is juiced. It is ready for this game against Texas. He said they're going to let it fly. He said just win. All they need is one more point than Texas. It's about winning that game no matter how you have to do it. That is the recipe for Ohio State in week one. Spent some time at the facility last week. Was around the team a little bit. You can feel the energy in that building. The offensive line, Austin Sarabeld was announced as a starter at left tackle. The other four not named yet, though we're assuming Carson Hinsman at center and a few other positions. Ohio State's going to be in a good spot. Penn State's going to be in a great spot. These two teams, I think, get deep into the college football playoff. Both of these teams will be in it, which I'll tell you about in my bracket in just a few minutes. Ohio State, though, wins the Big Ten over Penn State. To the SEC, this one's going to be Texas versus Alabama. Now, you may have thought Georgia could have been mentioned there, LSU. There's a host of teams that could be playing in that game against Texas, but I'm going to take Alabama to get to Atlanta. We're not going to see that game in the regular season. So Kalen DeBoer in year 2. Ryan Williams is a great weapon. Ty Simpson wins that quarterback battle. Ryan Grubb is the offensive coordinator now. Back with Kalen DeBoer, we see that reunion. We know how that's played in previous stunts with Michael Penix at Washington, even some time there at Indiana. We know what Kalen DeBoer does in year 2. I think he has a similar step forward at Alabama. I'm not in that class that thinks Alabama is going to take another step back. I believe in Kalen DeBoer and what he's building there in Tuscaloosa. And I think having Ryan Grubb back on his staff is only going to bring great things. And the real story here is going to be Alabama's defense. I think they're going to be able to win games defensively this year. It's a great unit. The back end of that defense, I'm hearing, is really, really good. And they're going to continue to grow as the season wears on. So I've got the Tide playing the Longhorns. We know everything about Texas already. They've dominated the headlines. Preseason number 1, Arch Manning, Steve Sarkisian, Ryan Wingo, all these great players on this Texas team. I think they win the SEC this season and go to the playoff. Alabama will be in the bracket as well. Again, finding out that seeding here in just a couple of moments. But Texas goes to win the SEC over Alabama in a great classic matchup. To the ACC now, I've got Clemson playing Miami now. Miami, I think, is going to get pushed for this game by Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech, I was debating this a lot. It was really a last-second decision here that I decided to go with Miami. Give the quarterback advantage there with Carson Beck to the Hurricanes, and that is why I have them in this game. Clemson, we know that they're head and shoulders above the rest of the conference this year. Cade Klubnik under center. They've got some great wide receivers. Garrett Riley, Klubnik, been together for 3 years now. So how will that go? Or did we already see the ceiling for this Clemson team since most of them are back? They have 3 of the best players in the country. They're going to be ferocious on the defensive line. So this Clemson team can be a force if they have another gear from a team a year ago. If they don't, they'll just win the ACC. They'll get to the college football playoff, and that'll be it. But if they have another gear, if they can take it to the next level, this team could contend for a national championship. Then the Big 12. I don't know what to say about the Big 12, to be completely honest with you, when you look at this, because it's like, who do I want to pick to win this conference? Who's going to make the conference championship game? You look at the odds board, you're like, all right, I've got 8 options here in the odds market. You're really looking at schedule, you're looking at returning production, you're looking at coaching, you're looking at quarterbacks, lots of factors into this. I mean, we have debated tons of teams in this, from Arizona State and Kansas State. That's the matchup that I landed on. Baylor was a team considered. Utah, TCU, Texas Tech. I know they have done a lot in the transfer portal. They're spending that NIL money. They're leaning into that Texas oil money. They did lose Quentin Joyner today to an injury. Timetable uncertain for him. So that could be a really impactful injury. We'll keep you up to date there on his timetable. But I got Sam Leavitt facing Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. Arizona State wins the conference. A year ago, they were the Cinderella team of the college football playoff. They got to a quarterfinal, ultimately fell against Texas in a highly contested game. Came down to the very last moment and last plays there. Texas almost letting it slip away, but survived. I will take Arizona State to win the conference again. I trust Sam Leavitt. I like Kenny Dillingham and what they are building in Tempe, so I will take the Sun Devils to win the Big 12. All right. We're going to just keep on moving here. We've got our bracket. It is time for the bracket. I know I just told you my conference champions. Just to remind you, Ohio State out of the Big 10, Texas out of the SEC, Clemson out of the ACC, and then I've got Arizona State out of the Big 12. Boise will be my group of 5 pick, barely over Tulane. Navy, another team that I looked at. UNLV potentially could be in the mix. And then a long shot here, but we'll have the schedule for it, is Liberty. So keep your eyes on those G5 teams. Now, I've got Boise going in at the 12 seed, just like I said, so I'll leave a pin in that one for now. I'll tell you my number 1 seed here. That's going to be Ohio State out of the Big 10. So the Buckeyes, defending champions, get the number 1 seed in the college football playoff and a bye. Texas going to be my number 2 seed, SEC champion. Again, a bye week there. Penn State, my 3 seed. I think, like I said, this is going to be a 1 versus 2 game in November. Humongous implications. The loser's not going to fall very far. So Penn State, I've got sitting at 3. Clemson going to enter at 4. I've got the Tigers. I think they're going to be a 1-loss team going into the college football playoff. The schedule does them a couple of favors. I think they take care of business for the most part. Although, again, their seeding, I think, is predicated on a win over LSU. I am baking in a win over LSU in that season opener. If they lose that game, I do think they still make the playoff. They just will not have a top 4 seed and a bye, but Clemson takes that final spot and the bye week. Now, the teams that will play to face Clemson, like I just told you, Boise State is my 12 seed. They will be going to Notre Dame, which is going to be my 5 seed. I am very high on the Irish and Marcus Freeman. So there's a quarterback battle that is still ongoing in South Bend right now. I'm going to take Notre Dame. They're going to be really good on defense. They have the second best running back room in the country with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. They're going to be able to throw the football like I just said. So that offense should be pretty dynamic. Always solid on both lines of scrimmage. The defense is going to be completely lights out. I like Notre Dame there to get the 5 seed. I did debate them actually getting a bye. I think they go 11-1. That conference championship for Clemson was the deciding factor to give them that extra data point to become the 4 seed over the Irish. Okay, the 11th seed is going to be Arizona State, champions of the Big 12. I've got them going to Tuscaloosa to play Alabama. So humongous matchup there for the Sun Devils traveling to Tuscaloosa. Kalen DeBoer will get to host Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils. And then my 10 seed is going to be Georgia. They're going to get to go to Eugene, Oregon, Autzen Stadium to play the Ducks. This is Kirby Smart against Dan Lanning. Storylines galore in this matchup. How much fun would this be? Oregon, after getting robbed last year, seeding wise, because of the format. Now, that's the difference last year compared to this year. Last year, there were automatic bids for conference champions. This year, it is straight seeding as you are ranked. Oregon will get its on campus quarterfinal matchup, first round matchup. Jumping the gun there because they got robbed in the quarterfinal last year, having to play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. But Oregon is going to get to host Georgia. That's a 7-10 game for me. The winner of that would go on to play Texas. And then on the opposite side of the bracket, winner gets to play Ohio State in this matchup, the 8-9 game. I've got Miami and LSU. The Hurricanes getting to host this game, although I do think there will be more LSU fans in that stadium because we know how Miami is with home games. That's going to be another fun matchup. I do give the advantage there to Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers. But again, I think really fun first round matchups here for the college football playoff. I think seeding the teams as are ranked are going to be so much better than those automatic qualifiers with the conference champions because we saw the inequities in that, the imbalance. You know, Penn State gets the easiest road losing the Big Ten. Oregon gets to play Ohio State, which no one knew was the hottest team in the country at the time, but you could just look at that bracket and say, all right, well, the number one team in the country is either going to get to play Ohio State, which they already played, and that was a classic, or they're going to get to play an SEC team in Tennessee. Meanwhile, you've got Penn State over here saying, all right, we got SMU and Arizona State, Boise State. Look at me. All right, let me get the facts straight here. Penn State had to go SMU at home and then Boise State. Now we've got that straight. And they had an easier road after losing the conference championship game. So that's going to get fixed this year, although you can't control everything with the seeding. It is just what it is, but at least it's better this year where you're seeding the teams as they are ranked. So next round to the quarterfinals, I've got Clemson facing Notre Dame. That means Notre Dame's going to beat Boise State in that first round matchup. I think they do that handily. They will face off in the Cotton Bowl. Then I've got Penn State getting the winner of Alabama and Arizona State. Again, Alabama takes care of that game. I also think pretty handily. This is where it's going to get interesting here. LSU is going to beat Miami. Got Garrett Nussmeier and Brian Kelly facing Ohio State in a quarterfinal. How much fun will that matchup be? Seeing Garrett Nussmeier against Caleb Downs and that Ohio State defense, which I think will be playing much better as the season goes on. Garrett Nussmeier could be a sleeper Heisman Trophy pick in that matchup. So it will be very awesome to see that offense for LSU against that defense from Ohio State after Matt Patricia now having 14, 15 games almost under his belt there. And then the final matchup, I think Georgia gets it done in Austin. Kirby Smart beats Dan Lanning, goes on to play Texas. We get a rematch of the regular season game here. So again, the quarterfinal matchups will be Clemson, Notre Dame, Penn State, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, and Texas, Georgia. Moving on here for the semifinals, I've got Penn State beating Alabama, advancing to a semifinal. Like I said earlier, Penn State was going to make a deep run. And then I've got Texas beating Georgia again. So Texas advances to a semifinal. That game going to be in the Fiesta Bowl, according to my predictions, will be played on Thursday, January 8th. To see who plays in the Peach Bowl, this is going to be on Friday, January 9th. We've got Ohio State edging out LSU in that matchup. The Buckeyes advancing to the semifinal for the second straight season. They will play Clemson. Clemson will beat out Notre Dame late by a field goal. I think that game is going to be razor thin. I do think Clemson gets it done. I give the quarterback advantage there. And then again, the experience of Dabo Swinney, I think they find a play late defensively to win that game on a game-winning field goal. So Clemson going to advance to play the Buckeyes in a semifinal. On to the national championship game. We've got Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Clemson. Who wins these games? Give me Texas to beat Penn State on Thursday in the Fiesta Bowl. I think that game is going to be a classic as well. James Franklin and Penn State fall just short. So if it's national championship or bust for them, it's going to be bust. However, I think it's going to still end up being a quote unquote successful season for Penn State getting there, because I do think they're going to find a couple of big wins. They're beating Alabama. That's going to be a marquee win, just beating a big time SEC team. So I will give James Franklin a little bit of flowers there. On the other side, Ohio State, Clemson. This has been a battle in Ryan Day's tenure. He's had to face Clemson and Dabo Swinney 2 times, and we have seen how that has gone. I am going to take Ohio State. I think if Ohio State gets to this point in the playoff, I think the roster is better. I think the coaching staff is better. That defense is going to be really good. They've got Jeremiah Smith. Again, this is where I was questioning Clemson earlier. Clemson's path to a championship is really matchup dependent once they get to the playoff. I don't think they have the full roster. They have position group advantages, similar to what I talked about last year in the Ohio State-Michigan game, where Michigan had one pretty much pathway to win that game, and that was to exploit a matchup advantage on the defensive line and the offensive line. And Michigan did that on the inside with their defensive line against Ohio State's offensive line, who was missing its setter, South McLaughlin. So similar things will have to happen for Clemson to beat any of these teams, whether it's Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame. There's just going to be matchup dependent things that the Tigers will need, in my judgment, to win the game. Now, we may see this team on paper and see a different gear. I may feel differently by the time it comes to November and December when we're making these picks again. And that's why we reserve the right to watch the games. That's why these preseason picks are just for fun. And then we're going to evaluate them as the season goes on. One of the biggest rules in college football is not to get married to your preseason projections or read too much into preseason rankings, because you should adjust them accordingly as you see on-field results in real time. I don't think Clemson has the horses to keep up with any of the teams that would earn their way to a semifinal. So that's where I think their season falls just short. And then we've got a national championship game between Ohio State and Texas. The season is going to end the same way it begins, with one of the most highly anticipated matchups in college football. The Buckeyes and the Longhorns are going to open the season in Columbus. That game is going to be won by the Buckeyes, in my opinion, close. We're going to see Julian Sayin and Arch Manning have a full season under their belts. Arch Manning now would be about a 1.5-year starter, because he has played some games for Texas and in Quinn Ewers' absence a year ago. He's been in the system a long time. This matchup right here is going to be completely unbelievable. Ratings bonanza. You're going to have so many great matchups on here between the wide receivers, the DBs, the linebackers, every position group on both of these teams. I think these are the 2 best rosters in the sport. And they're going to show us that on August 30th. And that's just going to be an appetizer to what we're going to get to see in the national championship game. So that is how I see that playing out. Ohio State and Texas in the national championship game. And again, I see so much talent there. I'm going to take Ohio State. If they get that deep, I think Ohio State's going to be able to do it. So Ohio State, Texas, that is my national championship game. That is my college football playoff bracket. You will find that on social media available if you would like to see that in graphic form. So stay tuned to the socials for that. And then my conference championship predictions that we just saw, those are my thoughts on those things. Really, really excited to get to see some college football this Saturday. It's been a long time coming. This offseason's been a lot. We have got, on the note of the college football playoff real quick, we saw the Big Ten apparently leaking this idea. You know, anytime you see an idea like that, you really think about, is this legit? Is this just to get us to like a different idea? What's the angle of this idea? So a 2018 playoff, that doesn't seem feasible. I mean, you're going to have 28 teams that you think can win the national championship. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. But we saw this battle between the 5+11 model and then the 14-team automatic qualifier model too. And we're sitting there like, well, there hasn't really been a great argument for either of them, although I am a fan of the automatic qualifying model. If we're going to move off of 12 teams, I don't think that we should. I think 8 really is the perfect number for this, but 12 was a lot of fun last year. 12 is going to be a ton of fun this year. It's great games. We just don't want to devalue them too much by expanding too far. So I think 16 would be too big of a number, may end up there. 14 with that AQ model, I'd be all right with. But that 28 team thing, don't read into it too much. That is just to say, well, here's an idea that we didn't really do the best job explaining and the best job selling, and it's not gotten a lot of traction. We've got resistance from the SEC there because they want the 5+11 because they think they can backfill that with ranked teams at the end with 3 losses because they're scheduling and what they think of their conference. So just to settle everybody down on that 28 team thing, that does not seem feasible. It just seems like, well, here's a worse idea to get you to like an average idea because they just want to get to what they want. Similar strategy to politics, to be completely honest with you. But that's enough of that. You don't need to spend time entertaining things that will not happen. That is my college football playoff bracket for 2025. That's how I see this season playing out. I think we're going to have a ton of fun this year. There's going to be some great games. Week 1, 3 top 10 games. Are you kidding me? Ohio State, Texas, LSU, and Clemson will be the 2 headliners there. Make sure that you are staying tuned to our social media accounts at Saturday Cadence. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Blake Biscardi for all the latest coverage there. Stay tuned to our website, tsilverbulletin.com. We've got plenty of coverage for you as the season goes on. Appreciate you listening to today's special episode of Saturday Cadence as we dive into the conference championship predictions and then my college football playoff bracket. So as always, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time as we jump into preview episodes. We finally get them back. Week 0 on the horizon for us. We will see you there. In the meantime, God bless.